Welcome to another week of the Demon Huddle presented by the Cross Financial Group here on YouTube. I'm Jason Pugh, joined as always to lead things off by the head Demon, Blaine McCorkle. And Coach, we'll just jump right into the last couple of weeks. It's one thing to go and step up and play an FBS team as an FCS team. It's a whole other ball of wax to jump up and play a Power 4 team. You've done that twice in a row, Cincinnati the last one, and it kind of played out like we've seen most of them play out really across the country.
Yeah, it really has, and I think, don't quote me on this, but I think we're one of the only teams in the country to play two Power 4s back-to-back. A lot of people have one FBS game, maybe two, but sometimes that's a G5, whatever. I know Commerce did it, East Texas A&M, forgive me, early in the year, but they had an open date right after. They went 1 and 2. We had two Power 4s sandwiched between two really tough SWAC games, and I don't think anybody else in the country has done that. And yeah, to your point, a lot of these games are getting really lopsided, maybe more than we've ever seen in the past. I think right now, by my count, there's 15 FCS, FBS games this year that have been 60 points or more, and about half of those are 70 or more. And that's something that you really didn't used to see. Used to be, if a top 10 team played an FBS team, the whole FCS country was kind of watching. Hey, here's one we'll have a chance at. And, if I went back through my history with good teams and bad teams that I've coached, playing FBS teams, the scores have never gotten like they are now, and that is what the portal has 100% created, because now there's no sitting out. It used to be if you transferred same level, you had to sit out a year, so all of those players transferred down, which bolstered FCS football. Same thing, all the players from FCS really didn't transfer up because they'd have to sit out a year, so they stayed where they were. So really the one level of all the 4 levels that's hurt the most has been FCS, while FBS has gotten stronger, and it's just created this massive divide that's not good. Coach Satterfield and myself at Cincinnati last week before the game had a really pretty good conversation about that, and both kind of saw it eye to eye and kind of chuckled when we were both saying the same thing. And I don't know if it's good for college football, but it does create some big gaps. But those games are necessary for the entire athletic department. Hopefully we help some people out, in the athletic department. You're welcome. And now we can go on and play some FCS competition and truly see where we are.
It was interesting. I was walking around before the game with some of my counterparts at Cincinnati, and one of them had kind of been at an FCS level and worked his way up. And we discussed, these games being what they are, being paycheck games, being ability to fund the department, to help out with where you have to from a budgetary standpoint. But there are also some things, while, again, the scoreboard may get a little lopsided, there's a chance for some of these guys who have never been to a Minnesota, they've never been to a Cincinnati, and not just the stadiums, but the cities in general.
Right.
There are some non-football benefits to these for your guys.
There are. I mean, we don't really take the time to see those things. It's work for us, and it does allow us to host some people, to take some people with us, and they get to experience some of those things. But, for our guys, they go in, they go to the hotel, they go to the game, because it's business and it's work, because what we've been asked to do in those games and in all of our games is really, really hard, so we've got to kind of stay locked in and focused and about our business. So, yeah, good experience to get to go to a different part of the country and see some things, but at the end of the day, we're there to go to work.
Well, now you'll go to a place that is nearer to home and nearer to equivalency, I guess would be a better term, but you're back on equal footing in the sense that it'll be FCS versus FCS for the final 9 games and 10 weeks across the bye week. And when you do look at Prairie View, obviously there's, even within a year to year, we talked about the difference in FCS and FBS when people transfer. The portal at all levels makes it really hard to find some continuity and see things. Again, this is a team you're going to have played about 379, 380 days apart, but they probably look as different as anybody on your schedule.
Yeah, they do. I think right now they've got like 72 newcomers on their roster. A lot of their transfers are much older than ours. We've kind of talked about that we're a roster with 50 redshirt freshmen or true freshmen. They have 50 seniors or graduate seniors. So our rosters are exactly the opposites in terms of age. And it'll be a good football game. They're sitting at 1 and 2 right now. Lost the game that they probably didn't expect to lose to URTGV, which gave them credit. They've done a great job starting their program. Then they got beat by an FBS and Rice this week, beat Texas Southern in the opener. So this ought to be a really, really good 4-quarter football game. And coming off of those two, FBS games, we've got to be really smart with our preparation, with bodies and being banged up and things like that. We travel about 65 guys, and after 2 weeks of playing Power 4 schools, 34 of the 65 show up somewhere on the injury report, and that's very real. We went in the Cincinnati game last week. down 5 defensive starters or contributors, 3 with an injury, 1 with a death in the family, and one that we had to suspend because he kind of wasn't holding the standard. Hopefully all those guys are back this week, but we lost 3 more in the process. So our preparation for Prairie View has to be really, really smart. I think we've got a good plan right now, and we're going to go over there in just a few days and play a highly motivated team. We will be too, and I fully expect this to be a 4-quarter fist fight that ought to be a really fun game for a fan to watch.
When you talk about the injuries, and that's something when you do face those Power 4 teams back-to-back in a sense, or really anybody, when you come out of there, I think that the 2 things that if you go in as the smaller team, or as the FCS team in those matchups, maybe from a little bit cynical standpoint, the thing is get your check and stay healthy. You want to win the game,
right.
Obviously you do, but when you look at it that way, and so you got the checks, when you don't stay healthy and when you have those back-to-back, do you take some guys and you have to be, again, you're smart with it because they're either on a pitch count or maybe they could have gone Saturday, but as you pointed out very succinctly post-game, that game really didn't matter in terms of a lot of ways.
Yeah, we've got a lot of FCS football left to play. So yeah, there are some guys that you try to protect, put on a pitch count if you will, maybe hold when another week you may not. Maybe if we're playing Nichols or Southeastern or McNeese, hey, you're going. But you got to be smart. You got to map out the whole season. The whole is bigger than the sum of its parts, as they say, is kind of how you have to look at that with roster management. But those games do definitely take a toll. A lot of people kind of grab me after, like, hey, we came out healthy. Well, just because you didn't see the trainer go on the field doesn't mean we came out healthy. There's a lot of bumps and bruises that come with that. So again, that's where our staff and our strength staff and our athletic training staff, Coach Smelser and Cal and his crew, will do a really good job this week. They may be just as important as the coordinators calling the game and helping us get our bodies back ready to play what will be a 4-quarter tough physical game.
And it was very much a 4-quarter game last year. It was all 60 minutes and then an on-time play on top of that, and we can go back and rehash what happened at the end there. But when you did have a game like that, again, we've talked about the complete difference in their roster from last year to this year. What do you take from at that point? What was your closest game? What was your closest game all year last year to this game? Do you take anything at all?
Oh, absolutely. Like we said a million times, you lose or you learn, and that was a huge learning moment for us last year. We didn't win that game. We went on to an 0-12 season, but I don't know, looking back, that we really earned the right to win that game, even if we had. I don't think we were set up program-wise, culturally, talent-wise, from a work ethic standpoint, all those things. We hadn't earned the right to win, even though we may have won that game, and probably should have won that game. So looking back, there's a lot of lessons you learn from a big picture for your program and program building that'll really help us hopefully this week against Prairie View, because it's the same school we're playing, but big picture as we're building this whole thing, there's a lot we've learned from that game that we fall back on a lot.
And even then, we talked about their change of coaching staff. Bo McDowell no longer there, and again, that's something that you talk about culture never being set.
Yeah.
But coming in with 6 to 8 months, it's really hard to establish some of that as you go in even to week 4 of a season.
Yeah, and them having the coaching change. Tremaine Jackson's there now, came from Valdosta State, where he did a tremendous job, took his team to a national championship game, and kind of studying and following their program, on social media and whatever. I think he's probably a no-nonsense guy. He's come in and probably set a strict, disciplined culture. He knows what he wants to do. He knows how he wants to build his program, and I think it looks like he's doing it the right way. I kind of appreciate kind of the aggression and then the no-nonsense attitude he's taken to it, and I think he'll do a good job there.
When you do look at it, as you wrap up a 3-game road trip also, I know that's got to be a good feeling whenever the clock hits 0 to know you're going to be not only going into a bye week, but after that you finally get back home to a place that last time we saw was packed with a lot of happy demons. Yeah,
it was. So we'll finish this one, have the bye week next week, which will be desperately needed. 3 on the road, 2 of them being P4 teams. It's tough, and it takes a toll, and it wears on players and coaches and staff members alike. So next week, we've got to do everything we can to win this game against Prairie View. That's the only objective right now. But next week with the bye week, we'll be really smart and take a look at where we are, get some bodies healed up, evaluate the first 4 games, kind of do a good analysis, self-scout of where we are and what we need to do headed into conference play. And we'll worry about that when it gets there. The biggest one right now is just, Saturday at 6 o'clock in Prairie View, Texas. We got our work cut out for us.
Coach, as always, we appreciate your time. And we come back, we'll have Northwestern State Defensive Coordinator Matt Connor joining us here on the Demon Huddle, presented by Cross Financial.
Super One Foods is proud to be named the official grocery store of the Northwestern State University Demons. No matter where you gather to watch the game, we've got everything you need at Super One Foods, all at super low prices. Plus, you can order online and enjoy same-day pickup with our convenient curbside service. Talk about a game changer. Score big when you shop at Super One Foods, your official NSU Demons grocery store.
Welcome back to the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group, now joined by Northwestern State Defensive Coordinator Matt Connor as the Demons get ready for Prairie View to end a 3-game road trip. And Coach, we'll just kind of rip the Band-Aid off the last couple of weeks. Power 4 teams. We talked with Coach McCorkle about it. Stepping up to the FBS level is one thing. Stepping up to a Power 4 is a completely different ball game in some respects. And to do so when you're a little dinged up is even more of a challenge. I kind of know that's what happened to the unit on Saturday.
Yeah, it was. Those experiences for our kids and our coaches alike are really cool to get to go play in those big stadiums and be in those environments. If you're a competitor, you go into those environments to win the game. We did that both times. It didn't work out either time. Now we move forward to Prairie View. That's kind of the beauty of football and college football is that, good, bad, or ugly, you got to get up the next morning, you got to move on. And so if we would have won by 70, we're getting up and we're getting ready for Prairie View. So,
for you guys, and again, we talked about it, I know we very light traveling in terms of number of cornerbacks. There were some injuries there, but if there's a benefit that out of that, you get some guys that maybe didn't have the same number of reps against a first team Big 12 offense, against a first team Big 10 offense. They get to grow up a little bit faster, get a little bit more exposure right away.
Yeah. Anytime you get a chance, unfortunately we got a chance to play those guys because we did have some injuries. But you find the silver lining in everything. Anytime you get a chance to play some of those second, third string guys early in the year, that's just building depth for you as the year goes on because it's a long season and there'll be an opportunity. As we get some guys back, those reps will go down. But I'd be crazy to think that that's not going to happen at some point this year again, where we have to call on those guys, and they'll just be that much farther along when that happens.
I think the broadcast team mentioned it several times, kind of the same thing when Cincinnati had a guy go out on the offensive line. It was perfect building for later in the year because eventually someone's going to tweak an ankle or you pray that it doesn't happen. You don't want it to happen. Right. Inevitably in football, as it's collision sport, someone's going to get dinged. Yeah. But what do you take out of these couple of games, from a message to your defense, knowing that things will get a little bit more on equal footing starting Saturday? Yeah,
no matter who we're playing, we want to show up and we want to play with unbelievable effort. We want to play for 60 minutes, and there were some times over the last 2 weeks where you could see that. You could see our guys, get in a fight, be willing to dig their cleats in and put their hand in the ground, and no matter who's across from them, go after them and get in the fight. And so those absolutely things that we can build on as the season goes on. And, my message both weeks at halftime was to go out in the second half and create positive moments that we can build on through the season. And I think you can see some of that in both the weeks.
I think a guy like Troy Santamarina, he had the pick at Minnesota. Obviously no picks for anybody this weekend. Mm-hmm. It was a tough matchup with Brendan Sorsby in that group. But, he's a guy that, he's kind of been that nice piece behind everybody the last couple of years at corner for you. And I think he's really, those moments he had last year filling in when guys were hurt, have started to show up this year.
Yeah, he's a great example of what we talked about earlier is those guys, get put in situations where they have to be out there and get reps. They just, every time they get out there, they get a little bit better and a little bit better until the point where you get late in the season and, Troy Santamaria is not a guy that's out there because he has to be out there. He's a guy that's out there because we're okay putting him out there. That's okay. And that's just where you see that improvement just by experience.
When you look toward Prairie View, aside from getting kind of back on that FCS versus FCS level, what do you see from a coach that's got a background, in terms of taking a team to a national title game?
Yeah, I think they do a really, really good job. I think he's done a phenomenal job in the time that he's been there of bringing in some players. They went really, really heavy transfer to kind of fill their roster. And I think they've done a really good job of bringing in some pieces that's helping them and improving them. They're definitely better on offense than they were last year. Their offensive line's much improved. They've got 2 quarterbacks that they're playing. One of them is a really dynamic runner, both really big, 6'4", 220-pound quarterbacks, and one's a really dynamic runner, and they're just really balanced. I've been impressed with the improvement they made over a year.
In that case, you mentioned 6'4", 220. Drake Lindsey last week was 6'5", 235. How much does that help? Different skill set, obviously, but at least from a size standpoint, it won't be that much of a shock.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen one of those before, so it won't be that much of a shock. This one probably runs it a little bit better, but yeah, we've seen that stature standing back there before.
For you guys, when you do look at, we're about a quarter of the way through the season. We are a quarter of the way through the season now, but we talk about when you're moving teams, when you've got new faces in. Where do you feel, is there like a cutoff where you feel good about, okay, we've seen just about everything on film?
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone's got a new wrinkle every weekend because they're not going to run the same 56 plays each time. But where do you feel the point where you feel you've got enough film to truly feel not confident in your game plan that you feel it's going to work, but feel you've got enough of a knowledge base to build that plan?
Yeah, I think, you know, at that midway point, I mean, quite honestly, you know, week in and week out, you know, we might see a little bit different scheme here and there, but it is a lot of repetitive offensive football. That's just kind of the nature of the game. I think we focus more on their personnel and who they're trying to get the ball to and who their dangerous weapons are. And if we can do that, we can focus in on those guys. You know, obviously we do pay attention to the scheme, but we do see it a lot week in and week out. And so we're about at that point, you know, and I think on the flip side of that is we've gotten enough game reps now where we can really truly evaluate, you know, who is the best 11 for the Demon defense, and you know, truly evaluate that, maybe move some pieces around to make it work, to get our best 11 out there.
Who are some of those guys that have kind of made that move from your eyes? Obviously, stats are what they are, and sometimes stats lie.
Yeah.
From a counting number standpoint. But who are some of those guys that are kind of maybe making that push right now?
Yeah, well, Clinton is a guy that's really caused us to take a look at some things and how can we make sure he's on the field and he stays on the field. Preston Hickey has shown an ability to be more versatile than we originally thought, and so he's able to go out there and play some of that 4 technique as well as nose. Excuse me.
You're good.
As well as the nose guard, and so that just allows us to try to piece together and again put the best 11 we can out there.
And again, in that 3-3-5 you like to run, having versatile defensive linemen gonna make that three-man front look a little bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, Coach, thank you for your time. We'll see you down Saturday in Prairie View, Texas, and when we come back, we'll talk to Northwestern State Offensive Coordinator Carson Stewart. You're watching the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial here on YouTube.
Whether it's in the trailer, behind the camera, or on the air, NSU has a place for you. Learn the ins and outs of an ESPN broadcast while getting a full-fledged education in sports media or broadcast journalism. Northwestern State University. New media, journalism, and communication arts. Learn more at nsula.edu/new media.
Welcome back into the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group, joined now by Northwestern State Offensive Coordinator Carson Stewart. And Coach, we've talked with Blaine McCorkle about it. We've talked with Matt Connor about it. There's no one that envies an FCS team having to play back-to-back Power 4 opponents. Tough weeks last week at Cincinnati, the week before at Minnesota. What do you take out of the challenges that you've faced the last couple of weeks in those two teams?
Yeah, I think there were quite a few challenges, you're right. And we preached about it all week last week, that what are you going to learn from it? Leaving Minnesota, going to Cincinnati, leaving Cincinnati, now going to Prairie View. There's always something to learn. We talk about as a program all the time, make an honest assessment. What did I do? What did I not do? What could I do better? How can I do it better? So I think this week's a great week for our guys to get back to the basics and make a good honest assessment again and show up on Saturday ready to go.
Numerically, again, stats guy, SID guy, it's what we do. Numerically, a better performance against Cincinnati. I think probably the two drives there, the one in the end of the first half and the 11-play one that kind of bridged the third and fourth quarters. The ability to sustain drives was something I know Blaine McCorkle talked about at halftime of game one. We saw that in the second half against Alcorn, rather, the 2 long drives. 2 long drives against a Power 4 team, what can that do for this team's confidence?
Well, you're able to gain some momentum, and you're able to see, hey, when we're clicking on all cylinders, we can do some things. So great for those guys. It's a boost of confidence, and to be able to sustain those drives. You got to go back and do the next one now too. It's a next play mentality, and I think if they can focus on that, we can focus on that, we're going to have some success.
When you take out of these last 2 weeks, I mean, we've seen, obviously, you get a chance to play a lot of guys, some by choice, some obviously by circumstance. Talked about injuries with Coach as well. You knock on wood. Those are going to happen. You just hope they don't happen too much and very infrequently. But the young guys getting to go and play, we've talked about how young this roster is, and especially you look, there's 2 redshirt freshmen starting on the offensive line. You had a redshirt freshman making a 6th start at quarterback. You've got Matt Gowers out there as a redshirt freshman. And it just seems like every name is redshirt freshman or sophomore, even right down to Jeremiah James, who ran the ball very well at the end. But these young guys, what did they get out of those kind of matchups?
More and more experience, and experience is a good thing. It's a good teacher. So they're able to take a lot from those moments and now carry it over to the next opponent, and so on and so forth. I think when you get thrown into the fire, you only have one choice to make: go. So I think those guys learned a lot the last couple of weeks, being thrown into that fire. It'll only make them better players in the long run.
Similarly, a guy like Eli Anderson, who's in his first year in the program, comes in with a year to play, and he's got a pretty interesting story coming from a Mississippi college program that shut down its program and allowed him to come over here. He got some extensive playing time the last couple of weeks. When you go to your second string, your number 2 quarterback, or 1A, 1B, however you want to list him, in those situations, obviously you guys have Abram Johnson as a starter. That's the one you kind of want to build around. But what has Eli shown you those couple of weeks?
A lot of poise. I think he's able to come in and get him started with some easy concepts to put the ball out in space, and he commands the huddle very well. He's a very vocal quarterback, but I see poise when I look at Eli Anderson. He's very poised out there, and he can run the offense as well. So it's a great feeling.
How good is it from not just the physical standpoint, not just the on-field standpoint, but for him off the field in that quarterback room?
I think he's a very experienced guy when it comes to the IQ level in that room. He's been in multiple offenses. He's seen a lot of defenses. He's played a lot of football, so he's able to dissect some things and help those guys out in that room as well. He just adds another level of personality in there too.
Personality, really? Seems kind of quiet.
He can be quiet when he wants to be quiet, but he's got a great personality. He's fun to be around.
Another guy who's definitely not quiet a lot of times, but whose play has spoke volumes the last couple has been Colby Burrell. We've talked about it. He had the huge run there at the end against Alcorn. This week, just every time he ran the ball, it was running hard, and even in those kind of scrums, saw there was a play kind of in when you were backed up that pushed the pile 7 or 8 yards. He had a lot of help, but he was in there churning just as much as those guys, and he's one of those guys that's been through so much here, kind of become a rock for you.
Yeah, I think Colby's just a fierce competitor. Colby knows the offense in and out. Colby's very versatile. And come game day, you want to see Colby Burrell do well, and he's going to do just that. So it's a luxury for us, him in that running back room. He's an older guy. He's been around for some time, as you mentioned. But come game time, man, he doesn't have a speed other than full, and that's great to see on game day.
Well, something else, and we'll talk about just getting into some personality stuff with you and Colby. You guys shared something this week. You each had a family member that had previously been at Cincinnati. You're coming off a 2-game stretch where you had a cousin, or you faced a team where your cousin used to coach. Those are kind of the neat things that a lot of people don't realize just how intertwined college athletics is.
Yeah, no question. So my cousin was at Minnesota, D-line coach. He was at Cincinnati back in 2019 as well, same role. If you would have told me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago that I'd be going to those places to face the opponent who he was a part of that program, I would have called you crazy. But yeah, pretty neat moment there for the last 2 weeks for sure.
That was Colby had a brother that was at Cincinnati for a couple of years. So again, those ties that come through, and the ties that will bind this week are a team you played last year in Prairie View, and obviously that one went down to the wire. But as we've talked about, it's not the same Prairie View team in a lot of ways, from coaches down to basically a complete what was it, the Extreme Makeover Prairie View roster edition for them. So a little bit of a different situation preparing for them from last year?
Yeah, new coaching staff, some new faces in the roster, some new people kind of all across the board. But now that we're in week 4, we have what we need film-wise and to study and look back at some things that staff has done at previous stops as well, just to kind of get our gears turning some more. Yeah, I mean, new faces, new people out there. But once you turn the film on, it just gets back to the schematics of it in the grand scheme.
And now the good thing is, if you want to put it in a good thing, maybe for Joe Fan, it's a good thing. You'll kind of be back on equal footing now, and that's got to feel a bit foreign after a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a new season now. It's a new season. So now that we're back into FCS play, our guys should be juiced up on Saturday and ready to go. Take the lessons we've learned in the last couple of weeks and now put them to work.
And also probably juiced up to finish 3 of 3 on the road and ready to get to that bye week and get home.
That's right. Yeah, you get one more good one this week and get some time in the bye week to settle back in.
All right, Coach. Well, as always, we appreciate your time. I want to thank Carson Stewart, Matt Connor, and Blaine McCorkle for joining us. As always, this wraps up another edition of the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial here on YouTube.